My name is Emma Locke. I've had bees since 2017, I think was my first year. I love being out in my bee yard. And today I just want to get into a couple of hives. I stole some brood from one of them and put it in the other one last week. And it always makes me a little bit nervous, even though, I've done it plenty of times and I've never really had a problem. But I did leave the immature bees on the frames. And so even though I know you can do that, and I've never really had a problem with it, I didn't use anything to divide the bees when I dropped them in there. So I just want to check and make sure everything's okay and that I didn't weaken this hive too much. So I'm going to blow a little smoke in these guys. That should help calm them down a little bit. And I can see drones coming in and out of this. And you can see the occasional bee going in with some pollen on their legs too, so that's a great sign. Also, I've been feeding them here for a few weeks now out of these buckets. I'm not going to open this up because they'll crawl out, but there are holes that we've drilled along here so that they can go in through there. That's really thick sugar syrup is what that is. A little more. And we'll give them some smoke in here too. Now I took 3 frames of bees out of this hive last week. This hive is very, very full. It doesn't look like it's going to swarm, but they have enough bees that they definitely could swarm. So I wanted to manage that a little bit. I pretty much only wear protective equipment when I know that I'm going to make them mad anymore. The protective equipment kind of gets in the way. It's not a bad thing for a beekeeper to get stung occasionally because that helps prevent the development of a bee allergy. Obviously, I don't want to be allergic to bees when I'm doing this. So I generally like to loosen up the first frame and move it a little bit closer to the edge. But I don't take that frame out because it's almost always got honey in it, and a honey frame is pretty heavy and awkward to manage. So instead, I generally take out this second frame here. And it could have some honey in it, but it's also very likely that it's got brood in it. If I turn it, I think you can probably see that there's a shimmer of honey in there. And there's also some cells that are filled with pollen. There's a drone, there's another drone. So even though it's only April, they are definitely thinking about mating already. Here on this side, there's a circle of brood in here, surrounded by pollen and then honey on the outside. We have pretty young brood in this frame. On the bottom half, you're going to see eggs if you can get in those individual cells. And then up above that is pretty young larvae. And they are really, really tricky to see. But the queen generally starts laying in the middle of the frame and then works out. But this frame has been laid in within the past few days. Probably 3 to 4 days ago, she laid this frame. Eggs hatch into larvae when they're 3 to 4 days old. So based on that, I would say that's when she was on this frame. I'm going to give them a little bit more smoke. They don't seem real agitated at all. Okay, now they're starting to think about putting some queen cups here, and I don't really want them to do that, but I don't see any queen cups. That really large brood down there, we call that popcorn brood, and that's a drone brood. They're bigger than a cell would be. There's a little bit older brood on this frame, little bit older larvae down in here. There's some, if you can see that, there's some white larvae in there. And then there's capped larvae around the outside. I find working my bees to be really meditative, and the reason is because when I come out here and I start to get in a hive, they can sense my mood if I'm angry or upset, and they're going to sting me. So I have to force myself to calm down, and it's a really good exercise for me to do that. But I don't want to drop them. This is a point where I try to be very careful at how I manage them. I put these frames in the other day. They're working on building a little bit of comb. You might find the queen in here if they're laying on these frames. Not this first one. That's just empty foundation for the most part, but they're starting to think about putting wax on there. Now they've started to fill this out quite a bit, and they've got eggs in on this frame, as well as a lot of pollen and a lot of the sugar syrup. They've definitely got a lot of drones in here. I haven't seen the queen yet. Not 100% at finding the queen, but I can spot her most of the time. I love the queen in this hive. This hive swarmed a year ago, and I wasn't able to get the queen from that swarm to stay around. But the daughter queen that she left behind is an excellent queen. I'm treatment free, and I don't really believe in organics, but I do believe in breeding things that are going to be more disease resistant. So I've ordered treatment free queens from places that have a breeding program for them. So all my hives this year are survivor hives. They made it through the winter without any treatment for varroa mites. Mostly that's what I wanted to see in this hive, but I am going to pull out this frame and see what's on it, because it looks like it's completely full of honey. No, it's not. So this is some really nice new comb here that they've got this brood in, and there are eggs and capped brood and larvae all in this frame. That's not necessarily a good sign. It means that my queen has had to come back, but at the same time, it's not patchy in a bad way. The eggs are all in the same spot. The capped brood is all in the same spot. So it might just be an early spring thing. Oh, this is gorgeous. It's young capped brood. Here you can get some larvae, and they're just swimming around in that. That's gorgeous. So I'm really happy with this hive and how it's doing. I saw the queen in this hive a week ago, and if I've got eggs, I know that she's here. Or at least she's been here within the last 3 days. I'm going to slide those over as gently as I can. Make sure that there aren't any bees in between the ends of these frames when I put them back in. Now, because I've got the bees all over on this end, I'm going to slide this end bar on the opposite side down next to the box so that hopefully they don't get squished over there. And this is kind of the most tricky operation, and so if I had known that the queen was on this frame or this frame, I would not have inserted that frame right there. I would figure out how to rearrange things so that I could put it in somewhere else. Because the queen is someone a bee I don't want to lose. Okay. They look very good. I'm going to be taking out of this hive and putting in a couple of other hives later on as well. This is definitely the hive that came through the winter the strongest, and so it's a way also to keep the other hives from becoming aggressive, and one of them definitely is, and I think a lot of the reason for that is that the strong hive takes away from the weak hive. They can go in and rob their stores and stuff. I'll be taking some of the frames of nearly mature brood and moving them to the weaker hives throughout the spring. I did that to one hive last week, and I'm going to open that up now. This queen this hive had an old queen in it, and I was really hoping that she would be viable yet through this summer, but it looked to me last week like they had replaced her. Now, I put a second box on here last week, and that's where I put the frames of brood from that hive, but neither of these boxes is completely full yet. So you can see there's not nearly as many bees in this hive as there is in the other one. But I think it's in a really good spot to have a population explosion within the next couple of weeks. Now, I know that this frame on the end is pretty much empty, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it and set it aside. And I basically want to check the frames that I added last week and see what's going on with them. I don't remember if this was one I added or if they've populated this one. This would have been one I added. You can see that there's capped brood on there, and they wouldn't have had time to have gotten to the capped brood stage. But so again, that would have been a frame that was laid by the queen in that other hive. I don't know really what the status of the queen in here is. I could still find the old queen. Sometimes when they're superseded, the old queen can continue to live for a while with the daughter queen. There's a baby bee emerging from this cell right there. Can you see that? Do you see her? Younger bees are really fuzzy. For instance, I can tell this one here hasn't been emerged for very long, or that one there. Oh, there is a little virgin queen in here. There she is right there. You can see that she just looks different. Her abdomen is shorter than it should be, but that's definitely a queen. I'm going to give them a big puff of smoke again. So I'm going to remove this top box, and it shouldn't be too heavy right now because again there's not much in here. But if it was full of honey, it would weigh almost more than I could lift. I'm going to do this a little bit differently. There really isn't any brood in this half of the hive at all. It's pretty empty, so I'm going to see if I can scoot them back. No, they're glued down pretty good. So this substance that keeps a hive together, this substance here, this is called propolis. We refer to it a lot as bee glue, and it's very sticky, and if it gets cold, it's hard. So it can be something that we try to manage a little bit at times. And some bees are bred not to produce as much. Okay, so I was able to kind of move those frames over a little bit, and I can start on this side of the hive like I like to. And nothing there but foundation. I really debated last fall whether to move this colony into a full-size box or leave it in a nucleus hive, which only has 5 frames in it. So this mostly has pollen in it right now. They're not doing bad, but they needed some help. And I'll probably drop them back down to a single box before very long. Okay, so it looks like the eggs that they had in here when I was checking last week have kind of dried out. You can still see them, but they don't look very good. There's that queen again. This is a queen cell. Now this is one she destroyed. She would have been the first. There were 2 cells in this hive. She would have been the first to emerge, and I'll show you that cell in a little bit. But you can see that she chewed through the side of this cell and killed that queen, the baby queen that would have been in there. There are some bees emerging here as well, several of them. This was my favorite hive last year. I loved the queen, the old queen in here, but she was several years old. So I'll need to watch and make sure that the new queen is laying here in a few days, and that she looks like a good queen. Otherwise, I'll have to purchase one. They're kind of hard to find right now. seems like maybe a lot of people are getting into beekeeping this year, and there's the place I get queens from is sold out right now. Now, I would have liked to have thought that that old queen was in here, but I don't see any signs that she is. There aren't any new eggs. I am going to show you right here. This would be the queen cell that queen emerged from, and you can see that she emerged from the bottom and she chewed a really nice even circle around where she emerged from. So that's how you tell that that's the one that they came out of. So I love to be out here. I think that pretty much sums up for what I wanted to talk about today.